Selection 1, Earthquake Terror by Peg Carrot.
A family vacation begins peacefully in the woods of Magpie Island. Then Jonathan and Abby's mom breaks her ankle, and their dad has to rush her to the hospital. He promises to return in 3 hours, leaving Jonathan, age 12, in charge of his 6-year-old sister, whose legs are partially paralyzed. Moose, the family's dog, is with them, but Jonathan is uneasy.
In his mind, Jonathan could see his father unhitching the small camping trailer. He pictured the car going along the narrow, winding road that meandered from the campground through the woods. He saw the high bridge that crossed the river, connecting the island campground to the mainland. He imagined his father driving across the bridge, faster than usual, with Mom lying down in the back seat. Or maybe she wouldn't lie down. Maybe, even with a broken ankle, she would wear her seatbelt. She always did, and she insisted that Jonathan and Abby wear theirs. Moose cocked his head as if listening to something. Then he ran toward the trail, sniffing the ground. "Moose," Jonathan called, "come back." Moose paused, looked at Jonathan, and barked. "Come!" Moose returned, but he continued to smell the ground and pace back and forth. "Moose wants Mommy," Abby said. Moose suddenly stood still, his legs stiff and his tail up. He barked again. "Silly old dog," Abby said. He knows something is wrong, Jonathan thought. Dogs sense things. He knows I'm worried about Mom. Jonathan patted Moose's head. "It's all right, Moose. Good dog." Moose barked again. "I'm hot," Abby said. "It's too hot to eat." "Let's start back. It'll be cooler in the shade and we can finish our lunch in the camper." Maybe he could relax in the camper. Here he felt jumpy. He didn't like being totally out of communication with the rest of the world. Whenever he stayed alone at home or took care of Abby, there was always a telephone at his fingertips or a neighbor just down the street. If he had a problem, he could call his parents or Mrs. Smith next door, or even 911. Here he was isolated. I wouldn't do well as a forest ranger, Jonathan thought. How do they stand being alone in the woods all the time? He rewrapped the uneaten food, buckled the backpack over his shoulders, and put the leash on Moose. The goofy way Moose was acting, he might bolt down the trail and not come back. Jonathan helped Abby stand up and placed her walker in position. Slowly, they began the journey across the sand and into the woods to follow the trail through the trees. Jonathan wished he had worn a watch. It seemed as if his parents had been gone long enough to get partway to town, but it was hard to be sure. Time had a way of evaporating instantly when he was engrossed in an interesting project, such as cataloging his baseball cards or reading a good mystery. But time dragged unbearably when he was in the dentist's office or waiting for a ride. It was hard to estimate how much time had passed since his parents waved goodbye and walked away. 40 minutes? An hour? Abby walked in front of him. That way he could see her and know if she needed help, and it kept him from going too fast. When he was in the lead, he usually got too far ahead, even when he tried to walk slowly. While they walked, Jonathan planned what he would do when they got back to the camper. As soon as he got Abby settled on her bed, he would turn on the radio and listen to the ball game. That would give him something to think about. The San Francisco Giants were his favorite baseball team, and he hoped they would win the World Series. Jonathan noticed again how quiet it was. No magpies cawed, no leaves rustled overhead. The air was stifling, with no hint of breeze. Moose barked. Jonathan jumped at the sudden noise. It was Moose's warning bark, the one he used when a stranger knocked on the door. He stood beside Jonathan and barked again. The dog's eyes had a frantic look. He was shaking the way he always did during a thunderstorm. "What's wrong, boy?" Jonathan asked. He reached out to pet Moose, but the dog tugged toward Abby and barked at her. "Hush, Moose," Abby said. Jonathan looked in all directions. He saw nothing unusual. There were still no people and no animals that would startle Moose and set him off. Jonathan listened hard, wondering if Moose had heard something that Jonathan couldn't hear. Abby stopped walking. "What was that?" she said. "What was what?" Jonathan listened. He heard a deep rumbling sound in the distance. Thunder? He looked up. The sky was bright and cloudless. The noise came closer. It was too sharp to be thunder. It was more like several rifles being fired at the same time. Hunters, he thought. There are hunters in the woods, and they heard us move, and they've mistaken us for deer or pheasant. Moose must have seen them or heard them, or possibly smelled them. "Don't shoot!" he cried. As he yelled, Jonathan felt a jolt. He stumbled forward, thrusting an arm out to brace himself against a tree. Another loud noise exploded as Jonathan lurched sideways. He dropped the leash. Abby screamed. A bomb? Jonathan thought. Who would bomb a deserted campground? The noise continued and the earth moved beneath his feet. As he felt himself lifted, he knew that the sound was not hunters with guns. It was not a bomb either. Earthquake. The word flashed across his brain as if he had seen it blazing on a neon sign. He felt as if he were on a surfboard, catching a giant wave, rising, cresting, and sliding back down again. Except he was standing on dry land. "Jonathan!" Abby's scream was lost in the thunderous noise. He saw her fall, her walker flying off to one side as she went down. Jonathan lunged forward, arms outstretched, trying to catch Abby before she hit the ground. He couldn't get there fast enough. The ground dropped away beneath his feet as if a trap door had opened. His legs buckled and he sank to his knees. He reached for a tree trunk to steady himself, but before his hand touched it, the tree moved. Jonathan's stomach rose into his throat, the way it sometimes did on a fast elevator. Ever since first grade, when the Palmers moved to California, Jonathan had practiced earthquake drills in school each year. He knew that most earthquakes occur along the shores of the Pacific Ocean. He knew that the San Andreas Fault runs north and south for hundreds of miles in California, making that land particularly susceptible to earthquakes. He knew that if an earthquake hit while he was in school, he was supposed to crawl under his desk or under a table, because injury was most likely to be caused by the roof caving in on him. That was school. This was Magpie Island. How should he protect himself in the woods? Where could he hide? He struggled to his feet again. Ahead of him, Abby lay whimpering on the ground. Moose stood beside her, his head low. "Put your hands over your head," Jonathan called. The ground shook again, and Jonathan struggled to remain on his feet. "I'm coming," he shouted. "Stay where you are, I'm coming." But he did not go to her. He couldn't. He staggered sideways, unable to keep his balance. He felt as if he were riding a roller coaster standing up, except the ground rocked back and forth at the same time that it rolled up and down. A clump of small birch trees swayed like dancers and then fell. The rumbling noise continued, surrounding him, coming from every direction at once. It was like standing in the center of a huge orchestra with kettle drums pounding on all sides. Abby's screams and Moose's barking blended with the noise. Although there was no roof to cave in on him, Jonathan put his arms over his head as he fell. The school's earthquake drills had taught him to protect his head, and he did it the only way he could. Earthquake. He had never felt an earthquake before, and he had always wondered how it would feel. He had questioned his teacher that first year. "How will I know it's an earthquake?" he asked. "If it's a big one," the teacher said, "you'll know." His teacher had been right. Jonathan knew. He knew with a certainty that made the hair rise on the back of his neck. He was in the middle of an earthquake now. A big one. The ground heaved, pitching Jonathan into the air. Jonathan hit the ground hard, jarring every bone in his body.